Hi, my name is Arlene Petway, and I'd like to welcome you back to my YouTube channel, Weathering Autism. Weathering Autism exists for mothers of exceptional children with autism, and the purpose is to encourage them, to provide support, resources, and hope to these women. So if you know any women that fits in that category, please feel free to share this channel with them. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you wouldn't mind, if you yourself could subscribe to my channel, just do so by hitting the subscribe button. And then once you hit the subscribe button, a little bell will appear. If you just click that little bell, that will ensure that you get notifications once I post new videos. Thank you so much. Today's subject is violence everywhere. And I like to go into what that means when I come back. Stay tuned. As you all know, we are living in very dangerous times. It doesn't matter where you live or where you're from, there seems to be an air of violence everywhere. Whether you're the parent of an autistic child, a child that has some type of other disability, or a typical child, as a parent, you're concerned about the safety of your children every day. But when you're raising a child with autism, there are extra added concerns that go along with that in terms of their safety. In preparing for this episode, I was doing some research, and I was actually shocked by some of the things that I learned. Of course, there's some things I know, having to raise a child with autism, but I did not realize the level of abuse and violence that is executed against our children every day. I came across some alarming statistics, and it really was an eye-opener for me. Let me share them with you. People with disabilities experience violent crime at twice the rate of people without disabilities. People with intellectual disabilities are sexually assaulted at a rate 7 times higher than those without disabilities. People with disabilities are 3 times as likely to be sexually assaulted as their peers without disabilities. Police are less likely to respond to reported violence against victims with disabilities. People with disabilities are more likely to be assaulted by someone they know and during daytime hours. Predators target people with intellectual disabilities because they know they are easily manipulated and will have difficulty testifying later. These crimes go mostly unrecognized, unprosecuted, and unpunished, and the abuser is free to abuse again. This is an epidemic. As surely as the rise of autism itself is an epidemic, violent crimes committed against people with disabilities is at epidemic proportions, and something has to be done about it. I want you to watch this clip. This is a newscast that's probably taking place a couple of years ago. And when I watched it, of course, I was very disturbed by it. But what is more disturbing is that things like this happen in classrooms, in care centers, in homes every day. And we need to be watchful. And we need to do something about this. I'll be right back. Take a look at this clip.
Lee and Diane, many children with autism have no voice. They are non-verbal, so it is quite literal. So they are completely helpless victims when it comes to situations where they're out of their parents' sight. For parents of children with autism in the Adrian area, they thought they were entrusting their children to a safe environment. But now they're finding out that may not have been the case.
And that's when they showed us the footage.
Megan and Brandon Van Etten are simply devastated by the tape they say was shared with them Wednesday night by ProMedica.
We trusted them to be his voice and to keep him safe.
Their 8-year-old son, Alden, has autism and is nonverbal. He is a student at the Promedica-Bixby Medical Center Autism Center. Megan says security video clearly showed an aide assaulting their son during therapy.
And she was asking him to show him, point to pictures in a book. And he was laughing.
And the point of the exercises are to build attention span with the child.
And she raised her hand, like to threaten to slap him, and he cowered in his chair and blocked his face.
Megan says when she watched the video, it didn't stop there.
And so she smacked him in the mouth. And he pulled back and sat back up, and she smacked him in the mouth again and screamed, "Not today," at him. And so he tried to push his chair back away from the table, and she pulled back and smacked him even harder and got like the side of his face. And I ran out of the room. I couldn't watch anymore.
Never felt such betrayal. We had him with people that we trusted.
Another parent, Jessie Reyes, says when she complained about concerns she had when it came to her 5-year-old daughter who was a student at the Autism Center and requested video from a specific day of concern, she was told the tape was gone. She's since filed a police report as well.
I trusted them. And they would smile in our face when we picked up the kids and tell us they had a good day.
Some things cause me to be a little lost for words. And this is one of those things. My heart breaks for those parents who had to discover that their children, who they put in the care of people that were supposed to be looking out for their welfare, looking out for their well-being, were instead treating them like garbage, treating them like less than a human being. It's hard to watch stuff like that. It's hard to hear stuff like that going on. But what I discovered is that things like this happen on a daily basis. As I said, whether it's in a care center, in a classroom, in a home, people are victimizing children, young adults, older adults, who can't fend for themselves. And that's the thing for me. They can't defend themselves. And these individuals, who I consider a lot of things, but definitely cowardice is one of those things, would use and abuse and victimize nonverbal children, children that don't have an understanding of what's going on, and think it's okay to do so. Somebody has to be held accountable for things like this. Somebody has to be held accountable. In my research, as I was looking into these things on YouTube and in other places, I was glad to see that there is some advocacy out there for especially autism, people who have autism, against abuse. And so I'll be leaving some of those links in the description section of this video. There were some that I wanted to recommend, but I really didn't feel in good conscience that I could because of some of the ways they were going about it, some of the language that they were using. But there's some good work that is beginning to be done to help. The important thing to me is for parents to know what to do. parents to recognize the signs, and to truly be advocates for their children. Because what is happening to children with disabilities and those who are adults with disabilities is evil. It's pure evil. And justice needs to be served in these cases. But again, the purpose for me bringing this subject to your attention is so we that as parents, we that as mothers of exceptional children with autism, as we leave our children in the care of others, that we can, if something does happen, we can recognize the signs and we can do something about it. So some of the ways in which we can recognize and identify abuse, whether it's violence, a violent crime, sexual assault, which is a violent crime, we can recognize these things in our children's lives. And Autism Speaks, I was able to look on their website and see some of the things that they suggested, as well as the Bureau that investigates crime against those with disabilities. And these are some of the things that they suggest. If there's an increase in nightmares or sleeping difficulties, and again, it's hard with autism because some of our children have those issues naturally. But if there's an increase in it, then we need to start looking into what may be the cause of those things. Angry outbursts. Again, some of our children are prone to angry outbursts. But if there's an increase in that, or there's a change in that, we need to do some investigating and looking closer. If your child is depressed, and again, some autistic children deal with depression, or at least cycles of depression. But we're talking about a frequency of it or an increase in the level of these things. Then that's something to look out for. If they're more withdrawn than usual, again, most autistic children have social problems. They have issues with social interaction, just withdraw naturally. But if something that seems out of the ordinary, then it's something we need to look into further. A propensity to run away from certain individuals, and that's true in any case. A typical child who is abused doesn't want to be around their abuser. And so we need to be careful and to really be watchful of how our children and our young adults relate to people. We need to be more attentive to that than maybe we normally would be. Aggressive behaviors. Next week, I want to deal with part 2 of this, violence everywhere, by dealing with the violent autistic child. Some autistic children are aggressive, and parents have to deal with aggression on a regular basis. I can tell you that for me, I'm blessed because my son was going that way, the tantrums, and because he was so frustrated, he couldn't get his point across and he couldn't communicate and let us know what was really going on inside of him. And so there would be this lashing out. So for me, I know if he's excessively aggressive, something else is going on. For me, that would be a key. But I know for some who are dealing with violence on a regular basis from their child, that may be a little more difficult to do. But again, we're the ones that know our children the best. So if we see something has escalated beyond the norm, then that's something to look into. And just their language. If their language has changed, especially in terms of a sexual assault, they become more obsessed sexually, whether it be language or knowledge or behaviors. And that wasn't there before. That's something that your tentacles need to go up about. Your spidey sense needs to be doing something because something's wrong with that. especially if that's not typical for your child. And so the greatest thing I could say is just to be aware, that a parent needs to be aware of these things, and then to go at advocacy and getting help like these individuals did in these video clips, getting evidence, getting proof that your child has been abused, your child has been violated, and then prosecute to the fullest extent of the law and get the word out to others who may be in that school or may be in that program or may know that person, so that these things can be nipped in the bud and stopped. As a mother, if you have a sense that something is wrong with an individual and you don't want that individual around your child, don't second guess that. I don't care if it's a family member or whoever it is, don't second guess that. Your first responsibility is to your child and to the safety of your child. And you have to do whatever you can and whatever it takes to keep that child safe. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much, and God bless. Bye-bye.